and Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. Today, we're diving into one of the fastest growing and most deceptive threats facing organizations right now. Across industries, companies are unknowingly hiring North Korean IT workers who operate under false identities, gaining trusted access to internal systems, sensitive data, and critical infrastructure. These operations are highly organized, financially motivated, and often tied to broader nation state objectives. In this conversation, I'm joined by Javed Iqbal, CISO at Bright Horizons, to break down how these schemes work, why they continue to succeed, and what organizations need to be doing right now to identify. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the APT and Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. My name is Aaron Still, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Mavro. Alex, thank you. Javed, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So, Javed, let's kind of start off just a little bit of your background. And before we kind of dive into the threat, can you kind of briefly walk me through your current role and what kind of security risk do you focus on as a CISO?
So I am currently the CISO at Bright Horizons. We are a global childcare, early education, and adult care company. We are in 7 countries. Security risk runs the whole range: AI and agentic AI risk, privacy, governance, all the way to actual direct attacks against our infrastructure and applications.
So, Javed, real quick, you've been described as a pragmatic security leader, kind of who focuses on basics instead of chasing hype. You also presented Pyongyang's programmers solving developer shortage with Kim's keyboard commandos. What made you realize this was no longer just a niche crypto or technology sector problem?
So my first awareness of this came when a company called KnowBe4, who are in the security awareness business, published a blog post detailing how they hired someone who was detected to be installing remote control software on that company issued laptop. And they basically published a blow by blow account of how that happened, and they published the IOCs as well. So I think they did a great service to the security community by being completely open and transparent and making people aware. So this is something that was not on my radar at all. So I decided to pull the thread a little bit more to understand how this worked. I am from a country called Bangladesh, and back in 2016, North Korean hackers broke into the Central Bank of Bangladesh, which is the equivalent of the US Federal Reserve, and they issued money transfer requests totaling just over $1 billion. That's with a B.
Wow.
And a lot of money. So I don't know if you know how the dollar exchange system works. All the countries in the world hold money with the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. And when
Yes.
they need to pay someone with US dollars, they instruct the Fed to transfer the money.
Yes.
So these guys issued a transfer request over the weekend, and it was a long weekend back in Bangladesh. And $640 million was outbound, and all but $82 million was recovered. So back then it was the largest cyber heist. And
Oh my God.
me being from Bangladesh, I took a deep interest in this, and I saw that these guys were extremely clever. They targeted a long weekend in Bangladesh, weekend in the United States. The central bank in Bangladesh, their money transfer system actually had a printer connected, so there would be like an unalterable log of all the transfers going on. And these guys messed with the printer driver, so there would be no printouts. So people coming in when the offices opened, did not notice what happened until it was too late. So here's like the interesting thing, or one of the interesting things about that hack. $640 million transfer left the New York Fed, and it was going through another bank called Deutsche Bank, headed to Sri Lanka and the Philippines. And there was a typo in one of the transfer orders. So the Deutsche Bank held the money. They sent a cable back to the New York Fed asking, hey, there's a typo here. Can you clarify?
Unbelievable.
And that's the only reason something like $560 million.
That's the only reason $60 million from a typo.
It saved $560 million. $82 million went out. And there was another $350 million queued up to go. So I developed this very healthy respect for the North Korean APTs. This was a group called Lazarus. Various vendors call them by other names.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I set up an alert for North Korean APT activities, nation state actor activities. And when this KnowBe4 blog post dropped, I started reading up more into them, partly because I'm curious, partly because I believe in knowing my adversaries. So I wanted to see where this ended.
To going to a next question, for anyone just catching up, what is the North Korean IT workers scheme at its core, let's say?
So at the surface level, these guys place IT contractors pretending to have a Western identity, United States or European identity, working remotely as a contractor for some European or US company. And they earn dollars, which gets pumped into North Korea's weapons program or to furnish the lavish lifestyle of the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un. The worst part of this is it does not stop with just earning money. If they work for a company where there is ransomable data, they might exfiltrate that data, detonate a ransomware, or even without detonating the ransomware, they might just blackmail the company saying, we have your data, we'll dump it on the dark web if you don't pay us. And there have been many instances of these guys getting employed at cryptocurrency exchanges or other crypto-related companies and basically stealing crypto. So like I said, back in 2016, $82 million was a very high amount for a hack. Now that has been beaten by $640 million or even $1 billion+ hacks. And the one rough estimate is that these guys have stolen over $6 billion during the last 7 years.
Yeah. Is the main objective revenue generation, espionage, sanctions, evasion, access, extortion, or all of the above?
All of the above, starting with the revenue. So the revenue might come from pure employment, not doing anything malicious, or it might come from adding on extortion, blackmail, ransomware. And that, like I said, the last phase is outright theft of convertible items like cryptocurrency.
And to go further to something more on the fraud or fake resume, why is it too simplistic to describe this only as fake resume or recruiting fraud, for example?
So it's not always a fake resume. Sometimes they steal identity of real people with real backgrounds. And I know of one situation where somebody's identity was, a real software engineer's identity was used to work simultaneously at 4 companies. So this person was also employed, earning good money, plus all these other jobs, and he owes a lot of money in back taxes.
So you think the employee from that company gave already or provide already, let's say, the permission of having the, let's say, the identity, and he received in exchange money for this, correct?
So two things happen here.
Please.
One is, let's say I am a software engineer. I'm a qualified software engineer. I'm working somewhere.
Yeah.
They harvest enough data from LinkedIn or other social media. Then they apply somewhere using my name, my background.
Okay.
I am not aware at all. That's one. There's another scenario where someone who's not in IT willingly gives up their identity in exchange for some money. Maybe they get paid $1,000 a month. And we can go deeper into this, but there is one case where a soldier in the US Army, not only he sold his identity documents, he actually took a drug test.
Whoa.
So he showed up, took a drug test. He was a real person as far as the hiring company was concerned. And he went into this knowing full well what was going on. So I don't know what's the ratio of people whose identities are stolen and the North Koreans are using that to gain employment, or people who sort of rent out their identity to the North Koreans.
I see. If a company unwillingly hires one of these workers, as you mentioned earlier, is the company is a victim, an underwriting facilitator, or potentially both?
So the company is a victim. I have no questions about that. One other angle to this, by paying someone who's a North Korean, that company is also potentially breaking the law, because North Korea is a sanctioned country. This person works for the North Korean government. Yeah. I had this very interesting conversation with someone from a US law enforcement agency. And they said, of course, we are not going to go after this company because they unknowingly paid a sanctioned country or a sanctioned entity. Law enforcement understands this very well. They track this, and I only mention it because it's a theoretical angle of the law.
So John, okay, let's move a little bit to kind of how they get inside. Okay, if you had to walk up to kind of like a skeptical CEO to talk about the kind of full life cycle, from the fake identity to the hiring, the onboarding, the access, payment, and the money flow, what do you see as the kind of the key stages for getting inside?
So first off, they apply for jobs. And I think like the whole North Korean APT were greatly enabled by two things. Cryptocurrency, like any ransomware actor has been enabled by cryptocurrency because it becomes more or less untraceable. And the second one is the rise of remote work during and post-COVID. There has been a cultural shift. It's accepted. There are many companies, especially in IT services, that are 100% remote. Not a single employee works out of a corporate office. So they monetized that. They took the most advantage of this as possible. So company A publishes a job post. Yeah. So two things happen, and this is a new trend. They flood that application with resumes of plumbers, electricians, people who have nothing to do with an IT job. And in between, they slip in a few of their resumes. So the applicant tracking system or whatever that employer is using, the first few hundred resumes are flooded with these bogus resumes and one or two that fits. So people doing the screening, they have to walk through all of those in the order things come in. So they pick out those few legitimate looking resumes, and that resume will look really, really good. Someone who has worked for Apple or Google or places like this, and they would have a cover story ready saying, hey, I'm tired of the Silicon Valley grind. I want to come work for a smaller company. Or if it's a crypto company or something really on the bleeding edge of technology, they would be very happy to find and hire someone from one of the FANG companies. And then this person would do the initial screening, and they would actually send someone who can talk really well with HR. This person is not necessarily a technology person. And they will be able to talk about football or basketball or basically non-work related stuff, their interests, etc. And their English should be reasonably good. Now there are also stories of AI deepfakes where they are actually doing face changes and voice changes, etc. Those used to be that you tell people to hold up their hand in front of their face or turn left or turn right, because the AI deepfakes 2 years ago couldn't reproduce the ears very well. Like they did not have enough samples to produce a profile view of the face. That was 2024. Things have changed and advanced enough that now they can. So it has become even more difficult to detect. This person passes the HR screen, and then they graduate to a technical screen, interview with a panel or perhaps with the manager. And very likely in that second round, someone with rockstar credentials in the technology will show up, and they will completely ace that interview. That is not the person who may actually do the job. They are sending specialists to do the HR screen and do the technical interview. And if they get hired, if they receive the offer, two things will happen. If the job was hybrid or in office, once they receive the offer, they will say, hey, this happened, this life-changing event happened, and unfortunately, I cannot come in anymore. We consider converting the position to remote. And the employer may or may not agree, or maybe the position was remote to start with, so then they can skip that step. We were talking about what are the things that enabled this kind of fraud. If it's a remote situation, I-9, which is the employment eligibility verification in the United States, used to be you have to come in and someone actually held your driver's license or your social security card and all that in their hand, and then they signed a piece of paper saying they have verified that you are eligible to do that interview. That has gone electronic as well. You can actually upload documents, or you can go in to some notary's office in your location who would verify the identity on behalf of the employer. And they will just find a notary, or they will manufacture a notary seal themselves and use that. So they have, at this point, they have passed the HR interview, the technology interview, I-9, and if this requires a fingerprint or a drug test, they will essentially send someone who's a mule, someone who has rented out their interview, and that person will go take their drug test. And they will have the right identity documents with them to pass all those screenings.
So, Javid, where do you think in the life cycle defenders kind of realistically have a chance to kind of break this chain?
Every single step of the way. So if you
Yeah.
think of like the old kill chain model,
Yes.
every time there is an interface, you get to intercept this. So once this KnowBe4 story broke in July 2024, I immediately had a call with our talent acquisition team. And we instituted a policy. No video means the interview gets canceled or rescheduled, right? So, and we tell them that turn left, turn right. We used to do that, and now we know that it doesn't work, but we still do that. I know of a few interviewing platforms, including the one that we use, do voice prints and face detection to ensure that the same person is showing up for all phases of those video interviews.
That sounds like a great idea.
In case of deepfake, correct?
For deepfakes, or even
Yeah.
if it's not deepfake, if
Or it's just the same another person they put in.
yeah, if John is coming for the HR screen and James is coming for the technology screen, you get to catch them that way. And if you abstract the whole North Korean factor, if you forget that for a second, those kind of fraud also happens in real life without North Koreans getting involved. People do commit that kind of fraud and drug testing. They would take a friend's urine or send someone else. So that has been going on for a very long time. Another one is that we are, for certain positions, we are doing face-to-face interviews. We will fly in the candidate for an interview, even if it's 100% remote. So it is not cheap, but it's still less than $1,000 to fly in a US candidate to do the interview. And these depends on each enterprise's risk tolerance and how much they want to spend on this challenge. One other point that we do this developer interview, part of which is a coding challenge. And the platform we use actually logs the IP address of the person doing that test. So these guys have laptops located in the United States that they remote control.
Yeah.
In that scenario, that IP address check doesn't work, it fails. But in case they are doing this from China or Russia or some other location where they are located, that's a good enough marker.
Couldn't they just VPN?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But assuming they go to the trouble to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems the sophistication of the attacks, and that actually was going to be one of my other questions, is, you know, the sophistication of what they're going through. Have you seen it been more advanced?
So not a technical sophistication,
Okay.
but this is something completely relevant. There used to be this joke where you tell the candidate to say the following phrase: Kim Jong-un is fat. And there is a video on YouTube. You can tell that when the picture of Kim Jong-un as a clown is shown, that person on that other end is having a heart attack, because if he laughs or something like that, he will probably be killed, his family will be killed. And I'm not being hyperbolic. That
No.
is something that would
yeah.
actually happen. So now that does not work anymore. They have been permitted to utter the phrase Kim Jong-un is fat or laugh at a funny caricature of Kim Jong-un. So your question was about technical sophistication, but I thought I'd share this story that these guys are extremely clever, and they are adapting, and
Yes.
they are overcoming generations of brainwashing and conditioning to go to a point where, like, yep, I'll do that because now it's sanctioned. Earning money for dear leader is the prime directive, and everything else will be there. So they have been using deepfake. They have been using AI to develop exploit. They have been using AI to deliver work when they're employed as software engineer. So you can almost say that they are a frontier AI enterprise,
Even
because-
as a hermit kingdom.
even as a hermit kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting how that developed.
Alex, I know you kind of wanted to get some questions, but we definitely kind of covered this where, and you went over this. Most companies obviously still rely on the video call, background checks, LinkedIn profile.
This
This is not really enough anymore, is it?
This is not enough. You need to do every single one. And this is one of those things where a company hires one of these North Korean actors, then they publish the IOC, it becomes public, and the North Koreans are monitoring all of this. They should, under no circumstances, be underestimated. And they are adapting. And they do this with a fanatic belief that their ruler is a god in human form.
Yes.
So there is this religious fanaticism there. There is also this massive threat of punishment, capital punishment, not just for one person, but for the whole family. So this is a massive carrot and stick motivation.
Oh, yeah.
So they are
And they
really,
punish
really
through
good.
generations, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, I know I'll let you.
Yeah,
I'll
I
let you
have
get
I
the
have
next
few
segment. I know
questions.
timing.
I have few questions on escalation from fraud to insider or extortion risk, of course. Early versions of this threat were often framed around revenue generation, and this is what we see in online. The FBI has since warned about code repositories, and we see that as well. I have seen even today news about this, and proprietary data being copied and used for extortion.
Yes.
How does that change the risk profile?
So I'll give a long answer.
Please.
They are exploiting every single avenue to get in. And supply chain attacks, especially compromising open source code,
Yeah.
is an excellent method for them to go from sniper attacks to massive machine guns, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would otherwise would have to go through all these motions to place someone at a company. It might take 2 months. And that's not guaranteed. This guy may screw up. The company might figure out that this is a North Korean actor, or it might simply be bad luck from their perspective. A better candidate might show up who gets selected, right?
Yeah.
So all that time investment is wasted versus if they can compromise a repo with, let's say, 100,000 downloads per week, which has actually happened in the last few months.
Yeah.
They are immediately in 100,000 software, and then it drops a backdoor and they own that network. If companies advocated proper cyber hygiene, then they would be examining all packets outbound, or at a minimum proxy the packets, not allow traffic to strange locations, etc. They would limit their blast radius, network segmentation, etc., etc. Aaron, you started with saying that I believe in pragmatic security. I am also a big believer in foundational security. Mm-hmm. So if you address those foundational security principles, this North Korean APT could be stopped or detected.
Yes. When you mean foundational, you mean to governance?
Governance, if you follow security best practices, mm-hmm. I will not say zero trust because this is still amorphous.
Yeah.
But if you simply say, why is this server issuing outbound packets when there was no inbound request? If it's a web server, it really should not be initiating traffic. It should only be responding to outbound traffic. Unfortunately, this is extra work. It's much simpler to throw a server and make it work versus making sure that there are multiple rings around it to secure it. So those don't happen, and that's why like supply chain attacks happen, that code base gets in. If you are really going to be careful, you'd then see what is getting installed, etc., etc. Yeah. Many people don't do that. By many, I mean 99% of the companies don't do those, and that's why we end up in this mess.
Yeah. Department of Justice, June 2025, actions describe North Korean remote IT workers using stolen and fake identities to obtain jobs and more than 100 US companies. What should boards and CISOs take away from that scale?
So this is one of the reasons I talk about this, and I thought this was an important enough topic when Aaron contacted me that we should discuss this. Again, I'll give a long answer, Alex. So my first awareness of this was from 2024. And as I started looking, I saw that in 2022, the FBI and the Department of Commerce and the FTC issued a warning about this. This was a purely revenue operation in 2022. Then I go back and look further, and I found that in 2018 and 2019, the FBI actually published photos of North Koreans who are doing this kind of attacks against US companies. And then I found that there was a United Nations commission that was looking into North Korea's nuclear weapons program. And back in 2017, they published a paper specifically on the remote IT worker and how they worked. So 2025, yes, 2024, broad-based knowledge in the United States, but this is at this point at least 9 years old. This is revenue, data exfiltration, and ransom enabled by all these technologies, and not just AI. Every time a new technology or a new path appeared, these guys adopted it very quickly. So they must have some sort of think tank doing the analysis, keeping tab on the news and saying, okay, this new thing happened. How do we monetize this? How do we use this?
Yeah, got it. Where would you draw the line between a company being a victim and becoming a negligent enabler? We see very often this.
So negligence to me is when a company is told that they have a problem and they don't do anything about it. That is negligent. Just because I talked about foundational security measures before, just because a company has not adopted those, I would still not call them negligent. I would say they did not think things far enough, but they are still a victim.
Got it. Aaron, any questions from your side?
So I guess if we have the time allowed, this one, at the April 2026 Drift Protocol incident has been reported as a suspected DPRK linked crypto social engineering case
Yeah.
involving months of trusted building. Kind of does that show that social trust itself is now part of the cyber attack surface?
So again, going back to how methodical these people are.
Yeah.
So Drift Protocol was $250 some million. Someone met the Drift Protocol people at a crypto conference 6+ months ago, talked to them, convinced them they could really talk technology. And digital finance is not something that you can find a random person who can talk technology to a company like Drift. It's not just Bitcoin mining. This is a whole new protocol. So these guys knew inside and out.
Yeah.
They established a partnership with Drift. They sent in the equivalent of $1 or $2 million worth of cryptocurrency. So they invested, not 6 months, not someone who really knew the technology. They actually invested capital into it,
To build trust.
gained trust,
Yeah.
and they multiplied it by 120 or 130 times.
Wow.
So 13,000% profit.
So Javed, let's move a little bit to kind of zero trust. Say we're inside the company, we're the attackers. We'll talk about
Yeah.
MFA, SOC, and the source code. Once a North Korean operator is on the payroll with the company laptop, he has VAPN, he has an FPA token, and also manager approval. Are they meaningfully different from kind of any other insider threat that's out there?
So this guy's intention at a minimum is wage theft. He's making money for his employers. And if the right opportunity arises, he will steal data or he will steal intellectual property to enrich his employers even further. Very, very few insiders who gain employment on a normal course go that far. So
Yeah.
it is different. Surprisingly enough, detecting and blocking both follow the same pattern.
Yes, I could see through the kill chain. It'd be the
Yeah.
same issues. Yeah. So you've said giving everyone MFA is definitely not enough, right? So
Correct.
if the North Korean worker is the authorized user, does this expose a weakness in how companies talk about zero trust?
Absolutely. So, but the weakness is not in the zero trust model. The weakness is the fact that companies don't go far enough.
Yeah.
So if you are logging, if you are detecting, if you are saying, hey, why is there a data transfer happening that's more than 10 megabytes? This is not supposed to happen. And why is this user poking around in the database where his job is to write front-end code? So if you don't have those telemetry, if you don't have the capability to look at those behavior, you are going to miss it.
I know Alex probably wants to talk about zero trust for 3 hours straight.
Yeah, indeed. We had a few events. One with George Finney.
Oh yeah,
And
George Finney was great. Yeah.
yeah, and the other one with it was with Robert from an European Union agency, where we talked about this. We didn't have the time to discuss about all the things, even about MFA, zero trust, SOC, and any other things which is implying VPN, tokens, encryption. There was a lot of things.
Yeah, so VPN is like, forget VPN. If you let someone inside your network, whether it's through VPN or through some other method, now he has basically run of the place. he can talk to colleagues. There are service accounts that get shared, and they will go after anything and everything they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
So Javed, what kind of have you seen any kind of behavioral or work-related anomalies that have kind of been underused as detection signals? We talk about
So,
time zones, collaboration habits, repository access, stuff like that.
yes. So, starting with the technical measures, now pretty much every single EDR provider can detect the telemetry. There is this very famous story out of Amazon where the connection was taking 100 milliseconds extra, where in the United States, from the East Coast to West Coast, it's still something under 20 milliseconds. They saw that this person's connectivity packets were taking about 150 milliseconds. So it was obvious this person was not in the United States. It took me a while to figure out how Amazon was doing this because I was looking into the tool. And finally, the answer I got was that they had their own homegrown telemetry agent on all of their equipment. That's how they detected that. The EDR should detect if there is like a KVM switch connected to the laptop. So wherever the laptop farm is, they have hundreds connected together. There was another interesting IOC where the threat actor would try to install a remote control software like TeamViewer or AnyDesk, something like that. Now they don't do that anymore because they have figured out that that gets detected. And now they are living off the land using Microsoft Teams or some product that's already on the computer to do the remote control. How do you detect that? One way is to say, okay, no local admin, which blocks people, unless it's needed for something specific. Unfortunately, developers always need local admin because they are installing stuff that they need
Correct.
for their work. So in having something that guards against that privilege escalation, logs it at a minimum, helps. The other methodology that you can use is to say, like, when is this person working? You talked about like hours. So is he submitting requests or doing pull requests or commits at 2 a.m. Regularly? Which, by the way, is not unusual for developers. They might sometimes work late at night just because they want to get things done. So it's not just one signal. You have to look at all this signal and look at the behavior and say, okay, what is he looking at? What times of day is he poking around? And you need some kind of SIEM or some kind of analysis to do that. Again, most SIEM manufacturers have developed detections for things like that. But there is...
Yeah, detecting behavior is very difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult,
Because you got a lot of false
but it
positives.
has to be done.
Yeah.
But the most effective and the cheapest solution is to have a really good conversation with your recruiting team. Costs nothing or costs 30 minutes, making them aware and just telling them, hey, look, I know you work really hard
Yeah.
to find a candidate who checks all the boxes. The downside is we end up in the news. So please do these three things.
Yeah. Is it too good to be true? Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, if you are some small company paying below market, why is someone who wants to leave a FANG company and work here? Ask them to explain. Maybe they do really want to slow down. Maybe they have kids and they don't want the 18-hour days anymore. Possible, but just ask that question. Watch the body language.
Their wife definitely doesn't want those 18-hour days anymore. That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about the development team. So if DPRK workers are inside the development teams and they're pushing code or they're accessing source repositories, are we kind of at a point where supply chain integrity and insider threat have become kind of the same problem?
Not the same problem, but they're definitely connected and adjacent.
Okay.
I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say one of these people write the authentication routine for your application. That means they can take every single person's user ID and password, and while checking it against whatever authentication story you have, they also ship it out somewhere, or just write to a local file that they will exfiltrate later. So that's one very simple example. Long time ago, back in the mainframe days, there used to be this thing called the salami technique. It's very thin slice of a monetary fraud. Every time a bank issues an interest amount to someone, so let's say they have 6 cents interest accumulated in a day, they get 6 cents. If it's 6.2 cents by calculation, the bank rounds it up or down depending on the amount. So this insider who wants to steal money can just take that third digit after the decimal.
Just taking the 0.2. Yep.
Yeah, and moving it somewhere else. So there are no shortage of historical precedent where good old-fashioned insider threat and fraud and embezzlement can happen. Or if these people happen to get employed by a defense contractor, which has happened, by the way, more than one instance, they are going to steal that intellectual property, and it will show up in a few years in the skies or elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. So, Jay, what we're going to do is kind of move to Alex, and we'll kind of talk about what companies must do now, kind of the next steps in the process. I know it's 2:48, so we only got about 15 minutes left. And Alex, if you could leave a little time, we'd kind of do, a quick round of questions real fast just before the ending, and then we'll be good to go. But Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to bring here 2 questions, not more, because I would like to give you also another last question in case if you have it, and of course if Javed have something to add as well at the end. So if you were advising a mid-market company with 500 to 5,000 employees and a remote heavy workforce, what are the 3 controls that would most reduce exposure to this threat?
So number one, like I said, awareness, educate your hiring managers, educate your recruiting team, etc.
Yeah.
So when I instituted that no video, no interview policy, I also asked if we could record the interviews.
Yeah.
And the answer from legal was that no, we cannot record, but we can take a screenshot of the person.
Okay, not
So
bad.
we take a screenshot, the recruiting team takes a screenshot, the hiring manager and everyone who interviews subsequently take a screenshot of the person's face from the conferencing system. And that's compared to the identity document. It's not foolproof, but it's just takes 15 seconds per person. It's a pretty easy check.
Yeah.
Jumping forward, when it's time to ship the laptop, so let's say they steal the identity of someone who's in Massachusetts. They steal my identity, right? But they are not going to move their laptop farm to Massachusetts just to satisfy me or to perpetrate this fraud. They already have a laptop farm somewhere in Colorado or Arizona or somewhere. So they will say, oops, you know what? After I got this job offer, I decided to move. Can you ship this laptop to my new address in Arizona?
Yeah.
That is a definite IOC. You need to watch out for that.
Yeah.
Number 3, you can, for all the major courier services in the United States, not just signature required, you can say ID check. So if a laptop is shipped to me I have to show the driver my ID that matches the name on the box, and reasonably it has to be me. So
Yeah.
A female cannot impersonate me. A Caucasian person cannot impersonate me. And I don't know if the delivery driver is going to pay that much attention. He just wants to deliver and go to his next job. But he's definitely going to compare the name and number on the driver's license. I'm sorry, the name on the driver's license to the name on the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those are the two ends, the recruiting to the laptop delivery. Install an EDR on the equipment. Companies should be doing it anyway for ransomware and antivirus, anti-malware, etc. But this also helps out detecting these people. I talked a bit about SIEM previously. That is an expensive proposition. Not only you have to have a good behavioral SIEM with detection rules, someone has to monitor it, someone has to respond. Can a 500 to 5,000 person company afford that? The answer is it depends. But the other steps, I say, those are low cost and definitely should be done.
I could definitely see it outsourcing security operations for that.
Yeah,
point.
I cannot say you must have it because I don't know what's the company's
Yeah, exactly.
nature of business and revenue, but highly
To not-
recommended.
To not forget over the, let's say, the company is hiring a third party
Yeah,
or an outsourcing company, and then you don't know if it's a person from North Korea, for example. That's not good at all. But yeah, that's another subject over there.
yeah.
I will add my last question. What should legal, HR, security, procurement, and finance be doing together that they are probably not doing today?
So I don't know if legal has that much role upfront, legal and finance, other than assisting security in implementing these policies and these rules.
Yeah. True.
So I have a good partnership with our general counsel's office. They assisted me in drafting the policy, and even though they did not allow me to take videos, they said, yeah, take photos. That should work just as well. So having those conversations upfront is extremely important. Alex, I will also add that for a company of a certain size and above, also talk to your communications team.
Yeah.
Because if something like this happens, and if you are in the news, you don't want the communication people to be surprised. Just
Correct.
spend
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes with them, tell them, hey, this is an emerging threat, and we are watching out. If you can, one last point. If there is an executive committee or a board.
Yeah, this is what I want to mean.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. This is something that deserves awareness at the highest level, that have that conversation that not only we are cognizant of this threat, we are actively working to detect and respond.
Java, what I hear over and over again is how important it is to build a relationship with the HR team, with the security team, and how this is so critical in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So my HR team actually contacted me a few days ago and said, hey, we have questions about this candidate. And we do due diligence because I don't want someone to mistakenly not get a job. It's also my duty to protect the company and the data. So we absolutely work hard to make sure that everybody's protected.
So, Javed, before we go into what we do is we're going to go into our rapid fire questions. But one last question before that is kind of when you zoom out from the kind of all the technical details we've been talking about, what aspects of the ecosystem kind of worries you the most right now?
we talked about the kill chain. So big part of the kill chain is policies and processes. If you don't have the right processes, no matter how much technology you throw at it, it's going to fail. So you have an EDR that alerted someone is trying to install a remote control software. Your SIM is telling you, hey, this guy is logging in at 3 a.m. from strange places. You are looking at them 1 month later is not going to help.
Yeah. So, Alex, would you like to do the rapid fire, or do you want me to do it?
I will let you do it.
All right. So, rapid fire. We'll just do a couple of these, right? Only 5 questions. The one red flag in a candidate's interview you would never ignore.
If that candidate refuses to come on video.
Okay.
Very simple mitigation. Let's reschedule. Tell us what time will work for you. We'll make it happen.
Okay. The detection control most companies skip, but should not.
Alerts from the telemetry.
Okay. The one thing HR should ask security before hiring remote technical workers.
If there is any doubt, talk to security.
Okay. The only thing security should ask HR before onboarding remote technical workers.
Only thing, that's difficult, but
Or
was there...
the only thing or the one thing, I guess you could choose. One
Yeah,
as well.
okay. So one of the things that we established is that if there is a single blip during the background check process that was explained, please take another look. Because we do not ask to see the background check information unless there is clear evidence of something fishy going on. But
Is that just all privacy issues?
It's a privacy issue.
Okay.
So let's say someone has an arrest record, right?
Yes.
I have no need to see that information.
You just need to know.
Associated with the name. Yeah, I don't need
Yes.
to know the name.
Yes.
So we tell HR, so we have compliance people who are very thorough, very methodical, and we count on them. It's a good partnership, and I think that partnership should be established. And once the reason behind those requests are explained, people get seriously motivated. Can you imagine which HR person will say, no, I don't want to do this. This is too much work. Everyone wants to protect the company.
Of course they do. Well, they
Yeah,
should.
so it works out really well.
All right. Last question. The one action every CISO, HR leader, and CEO should take this week.
Oh, at the risk of repeating myself, they should talk to HR if they have not done so. There are also literally thousands of email addresses used by Lazarus, the North Korean APT, to apply to these jobs. If possible, they should download those. You can Google North Korean worker email address and find a list. They should download that and run it through their email system or any other applicant tracking system to see if there's a hit.
Awesome. We are exactly at, well, we're almost at 3 o'clock. Javid, is there anything you would like to promote on what you're doing? If you're writing anything, if you have any books coming out or anything like that, we would love to hear from you.
I'm jumping far ahead. I am working on a fictional piece of work. I do write a lot on LinkedIn, but I am working on a fictional piece of work involving cybersecurity. I hope it sees the sunlight someday, but right now it's in outline form.
We would love to have you on when you finish writing it, and I'd love to read it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. What kind is it? Mystery, crime, science fiction?
It's no, not science fiction, but it's a mystery and crime, cyber crime.
Fantastic. We'd love to hear it. Again, Javid, thank you so much. Alex, do you have any questions before we head off?
No, nothing from my side. Yeah, and thank you, Javid, for having.
What I'm going to do is
yeah.
I'm going to